Hello traders and investors, I'm LA Little. This is your daily NeoTA wrap where we take a look at these markets, and we're doing it from a neoclassical perspective. That means we're looking at supply and demand on the charts, and we're using the information we get from test. Supply and demand, folks, to tell us what the market's going to do next. Let's take a look at the numbers here. We had gold and silver up, we had the bonds up, NASDAQ, Index up, the S&P up 4 points, and then you were kind of flat on the Russell. And outside of that, some gains that we had yesterday were taken away in Asia, and some continuation losses in Europe. If we look at the charts and pop into those, what you're going to see is you're going to see under-overs after pretty good moves down in almost everything you look at. And what I'm talking about with an under-over is you got to have two things that happen, right? You got to get up underneath the prior day's low, right? So you go under, back over, so you have to close over it, and you need less volume, right? Now that's not the great signal that some of the other signals that we get, but this one did it right here where support drew, gets under, gets back over, has a little less volume, right? That thing can probably bounce. Now, you know, I told my mentors this morning 2354, 2353 was going to be a tough spot. It got right up into that area. That's where it held. That was coming back into the swing point low. If you looked on the intraday chart, that was also where you were going to find resistance on the E-minis. And I can actually pull that over and show you what we were looking at there. Let me grab it for you. And here we go. A little bit small, I'll blow it up some for you. So if you look at these bars, you can see the integration of these two bars, right? The intersection is right there. It's the top of this high, bottom of that one. You see the volume there and the volume there. I'm doing a 30-minute chart. 30-minute chart on intraday trading is your long-term chart on day trade, on daily charts, weekly charts, and monthly charts. So this acts like your monthly chart basically. That's where resistance is. You pop straight into it to start the day, you pull back, you go into it again, you can't get over it, pull back again. So you can see how that number was tough. And then if you get above that, if we go back, and I was using 8 hours, 5 minutes, and pull that one back, and you can see the intersection over here, these two bars, and that's in this price point right up here. So, you know, I think tomorrow it tries to get up into that spot. That's where it's going to have a tough spot. So 23.52 to 54 today on the cash, 23.54 on the futures. If we look over at the other indexes, you're going to see exactly the same sort of thing. You know, the NASDAQ gets under, back over. Now the NASDAQ's been the strongest, right? So under, back over, closes near the highs. The Index has been the strongest. Same thing, gets under, back over, just barely under, back over. All of these, almost everywhere you look, almost everything reset. And that's actually a good thing, because what that says now is that this time frame here is no longer extended. So you no longer have extensions here like we had 80% plus on many of these. So think about it as like a momentary weakness, right? So the market's kind of, you know, going up, going up, going up, and then you get a pullback, and then you just start going up again. You know, it's this pullback that you want to try to catch. You never know exactly where the bottom is, but you can take some pretty good, you know, given the TA constraints, right, the NeoTA constraints, you can find places that make sense. You know, this had drawn yesterday. You could see where the support was. It was pretty heavy in this area. If it gets through there, it's the bullish retest region off the prior high. You know, that's what I talked about last night, about halfway back if this thing's going to build out larger. So anyway, nice setup. One of the other things I'm going to start trying to do here, and it's not focus as much on, you know, things that are repetitive, but also focus on at least one individual stock each night that looks like it's a good setup. Just to give you an idea of where things are. I don't know if I'll get it done every night, but I'll do my best to try to get one or two at least every week, hopefully one a night. Russell's the other primary problem. This did do a nice doji, shot down deep, right? Comes back, but it didn't get back over it. So it's the only one of the indexes. If you look on almost all of the sectors, you see the same thing, right? Where every one of them gets under, back over, setting up a nice spike back to the upside potential. So if I could pop in here, like SOX is the strongest one, has been. That one gets under, halfway back up already. If you look at the financials, remember how they had the huge volume yesterday? Well, they're under, just barely back over it today. So you can get some nice bounces in these areas on this bounce that looks like it's trying to get underway. I want to highlight two stocks. I want to highlight one that I've talked about before and just kind of show you how it played out. And then I want to move to one that I haven't highlighted, but I'll just give you a preview of what that one looks like because it's ready to move. Let's start with the one that I highlighted previously, which is XONE. This was a stock that one of the viewers had asked about. They asked about it, and I'll pull the weekly over. They asked about it when it was back, I think it was back in this time frame, somewhere about a month ago. So it was just coming back up into these swing point lows. Anytime you break a swing point, right? Anytime you break one of these swing points, the first thing you have to do is look at, actually I drew that wrong because the high is a little bit higher. You have to look at the risk of coming back up. And what you're doing is you're saying, okay, because this thing broke and because it came back, or it's coming back within 6 bars, it can get into the top third of that, and that's where you would expect it, of that width, of that range. So you would expect it to get into the top third, you know, another third being down here, and then the other third in the middle. So if it can do that, what you're looking for is A, you have to assume it's going to get up in there. B, if it doesn't, that says it's weaker than you expect. C, if it gets over it, then it's stronger than you expect. And that's kind of what, you know, you're using the supply and demand, and you're using the principles of the model to tell you what to do. Well, as you can see, it didn't get to the top third. I said at the time I would not be buying this. I would force it to get up here and then buy the retrace is what I would have done, you know, if I was wanting to get into this. And at, you know, at the same time, I said there's a lot better stocks. I wouldn't be messing with it. It's kind of a bottom feeder. Well, what happens is, yeah, it tries to get up there, it fails, and what's it doing now? It's regenerating lower. And that's what a retest regenerate is, right? You retest the area that you broke through on these swing point lows, and then as you pop back up, you attempt to regenerate to the downside. In other words, the momentum that was in this direction continues, and that is what we're seeing. So that's looking back to show you how that play worked out. Let's look at one that's just setting up. And that's over in the beaten down oil patch. So the same sort of thing, a bottom feeder type trade, but let's look at the difference in this trade as what that one was compared to about a month ago. Here's Chevron, and I'm just picking on one of the stocks inside the XLE because they're all set up almost the same way. Here's your low, there's your volume, there's the test, right? So you come down, you test here, and what happens? Volume dries up. The sellers are tired of selling at lower and lower price points. What's that going to do? Well, that's going to push this thing back up. Where's it going to push it to? Well, in this case, it's going to push it back up to do a retest regenerate off this prior swing point low. Now, this isn't a great reward risk in that you can only expect, now here's the kicker though, you should expect this to trade to the bottom third. My take is it's probably going to trade over that. So it's actually going to get into here and it's going to trade up maybe as high as the top of this. And the reason I say that is not on this chart, it's on the weekly chart. But what you have here is you had ranges that have played down, right? Now you're into a lower range, and unless this expands to the downside, this one's only about half of what this one was, and this one, right? And so from a percentage basis, they quit selling at a higher low and they sold it on less volume. My take is this is going to bounce up into here, do the retest regenerate, potentially get over it, probably get up to that area that I just highlighted, and the reason for it is on the weekly. Now what's on the weekly? And this is why you have to look at multiple time frames. And one of the things I have always done and continue to do is we have three charts that are set up all the time. There's the weekly, the monthly, the daily. If I'm day trading, there's the 5, the 15, and the 30. They're all about 60 bars. They're all set up the same way so you can read them the same way and you don't get too much crowding on your charts. This is a bullish retest regen. First time back after more than 6 bars. Where's the breakout? Right here. What does that mean? High probability of a bounce. High probability. Probability is that it will get into the top third. This is a small, this is a small box. So the top third is just right up into there, right? It's about right there. That's where it is. Did it last week, doing it again this week. Trying to hold, looks like it's going to have a little less volume this week as well. If I take that back off, take a look at the low, 107.12, low this week so far 107.02, going to have less volume. Almost everything is setting up correctly here for this, and this is a high probability, about a 90%er, that this thing will at least go sideways, probably bounce. If this does that, then that daily chart we were just looking at, and let me find it again, is probably going to do what I said, and that's it is going to get deeper into this swing point low. If it does that, if it trades back up into this area or higher, it tells you that the bottom is probably in. And so let's see how that one plays out. Giving you an example of how Neo works in real time. Folks, I expect the market's going to try to bounce tomorrow. We'll see how much. And then the question will be is how far can it go? I'll cover that tomorrow night. Have a great one. Take care.